Hi. Good to see you. A widow with 2 children saw that a rich man threw a luxury rug in the garbage can. She quickly decided to pick it up and unroll the carpet. As soon as she opened it, her whole body trembled. The afternoon slowly fell into the garbage can where a woman was digging for something edible to take home. Camila Reyes She was desperate, looking for something so that her children could feed. Luz Marina and Joaquín were playing at a safe distance, too innocent to realize their mother's despair at not being able to give them even a simple food. Camila, a woman with strong and determined features, carried the weight of the world on her shoulders. A widow at the age of 10, her life had become a daily sequence of challenges after losing her husband. "Mom, I'm hungry," Luz complained, her daughter, youngest, gently tugging on her mother's skirt. Camila smiled sadly at her, assuring her that they would soon find something to eat, although she wasn't sure about it. As she rummaged through a pile of garbage further away, Camila felt her fingers touch something surprisingly soft. When she pulled the object, she discovered a luxury rug, incredibly out of place in that environment. Her heart raced at the thought that such a piece could be worth some money, but what she found next left her breathless. Hidden within the folds of the rug was a thick envelope full of money bills. "This is a lot of money," she muttered to herself. Looking around instinctively, the decision about what to do with the discovery weighed on her like a stone. "Mom, what happened?" Joaquín approached the curious. Seeing her mother's worried expression, Camila quickly hid the envelope. "Nothing, my love, just an old rug," she said, trying to keep her voice steady. "Let's take it home. It could be useful." While she was preparing to leave the garbage can, Camila noticed a figure in the distance watching them. The silhouette was covered by the darkness that was beginning to fall, making it difficult to discern any detail. The presence of the observer made her heart race, mixing fear with the adrenaline of discovery. "Mom, who is that person?" "Who's looking at us?" asked Luz, her voice low, mixed with a dose of fear. Camila squeezed her daughter's hand tighter. "I don't know, dear, but let's go home now," she said, rushing El Paso with the children at her side. "We should tell someone about what we found," Joaquín questioned on the carpet as the mother carried his eyes fixed on her, trying to read her expression. "Let's decide that at home," Camila responded, her mind spinning with the implications of what the discovery could mean for now. "We need to keep this between us." We quickly walked away, the sound of their hurried steps mixing with the murmurs of the falling night. The figure that was watching them remained motionless, and when Camila looked back one last time, the uncertainty of that vision had disappeared, leaving her restless. But the need to protect her children and the possible solution to her financial difficulties propelled her forward. After discovering the envelope full of money, Camila locked the fragile door of her shack with a feeling of growing discomfort. The humble home, made up of worn wooden walls and a roof that barely protected from the rain, seemed even more vulnerable that night. Light and Joaquín watched his mother with sad looks, still remembering the hunger they had expressed earlier. Before deciding the next step, Camila improvised a simple meal with some vegetables that she had managed to rescue earlier, calming her children's roaring stomachs while they ate. The weight of what she found did not alleviate her nervousness. She knew she needed advice and help, but without a phone at home, her only option was to seek help personally. "Mom, we're going to be okay?" Luz asked innocently, nibbling a spoonful of dinner. Camila smiled at her, even though her heart was tight with worry. "Come on, darling. We just need to be cautious," she responded, trying to hide her determined anxiety. She wrapped the envelope in an old cloth and told her children that she would be back soon. Camila walked through the poorly lit streets of the neighborhood to the small local police station, where she knew she could find someone she trusted. When she arrived, she found Officer Diego Sanchez patrolling near the station, as was his custom. Diego was an old acquaintance who patrolled the neighborhood, always friendly and attentive to those in the community. "Diego, I need help," said Camila, approaching him. "He with the envelope hidden. I found this today. I'm afraid it could cause problems." Diego looked at the package seriously. "Let's see what you found," he said, guiding her towards the interior of the station where they could talk with more privacy. He explained the situation while Diego was examining the money. "You were right to bring this here, Camila. This seems to be an amount that is too large to not be involved in something illegal. I am going to record this, and we are going to investigate where it came from according to the numbering of the bills," Diego explained, already beginning to fill out a report. leaving the money in Diego's care. Camila felt a momentary relief. He promised to keep everything a secret until more information was discovered when he arrived at the entrance to his house. Camila, the aunt's heart racing, still unsure if she had made the right choice as she passed by. Her simple porch, a piece of paper, caught her attention. A small envelope with a note was on the worn table. Camila took it and read the handwritten message, "No go where they don't call you, forget the money." The blood ran cold in her veins. She looked around, but didn't see anyone clutching the note in her hand. Camila closed the door of the house, now aware that the situation was more dangerous than she had imagined. The first thing that she did was hug her children. Music? Promising her, they whispered to each other when she passed by, increasing Camila's feeling of isolation. She knew there must be some rumor about what happened. Probably someone must have seen her go to the police. "Mom, why are people acting?" Joaquín asked in a strange way one morning while he was looking out the kitchen window. Camila was preparing a Modesto breakfast with the money she got from the sale of some things she found in the trash. She thought deeply. Before answering, "Your child, sometimes people get nervous or afraid when they don't understand something they love. They don't know what happened, but they know that something happened." Listening to the conversation, he looked at his mother with his big, worried eyes. "They think we did something wrong." "No, my dear, we didn't do anything wrong," Camila assured, fixing her light hair while trying to hide her own anxiety as the day progressed. The action of being watched did not diminish. Camila noticed a black car that she didn't recognize passing slowly by the street. Dirt Street where she lived. The first time it passed, she thought it was a coincidence. The second time, her heart began to beat faster. When the car passed for the third time, stopping briefly in front of her shack before moving on, fear took over her. At night, while the children were sleeping, Camila sat at the kitchen table, her hands trembling with nervousness, trying to calm her nerves, but the silence of the house seemed like a screaming contrast to the whirlwind of thoughts in her mind. It was almost midnight when an engine sound breaking the night silence made her get up abruptly. Spying through the torn curtain, she saw the same black car parked on the other side of the street. A hooded figure got out and began walking towards her house. Camila quickly gave in, her heart beating disorderly. "No. It could be a coincidence," she muttered to herself, feeling a mixture of fear and anger. She ran to the nursery, waking her up. "We need to go to the back of the house," she whispered, guiding them to a hidden place. From the house where he kept some old tools and boxes. "Mom, what's going on?" Joaquín asked, the trembling voice in the darkness. "Stay silent," Camila instructed, her voice firm, but her heart was in disarray. The minutes dragged like hours while they waited in the darkness. Camila listened to every sound. Outside, wondering if the figure would finally decide to enter. After what seemed like an eternity, the sound of the engine was heard again, and the car drove away. Camila breathed a sigh of relief, but she knew that the night had been more of a warning than an end to their problems. "Let's go back to bed." "Okay," she said, trying to restore some normality to her children's night. As she led the children back to bed, Camila knew that things they were far from well. That night's visit was a clear reminder that danger was still very close, perhaps closer than ever. The morning after the nighttime incident, Camila could barely close her eyes as soon as the sun began to illuminate the horizon. Dusty was already standing making coffee in the kitchen, his mind still troubled by fear and uncertainty. Light and Joaquín woke up to the smell of coffee and joined her, feeling the tension that still hung in the air. "Mom, are you okay?" Joaquín asked, noticing the deep dark circles under Camila's eyes. She forced a smile as she poured the coffee. "Yes, my love, just a little tired," she lied, trying to protect the children from her own worries. The day before, she had managed to sell a lot of things for that. They had a quiet breakfast. Camila's dream was to get a good job so that her children could eat with dignity, but few wanted to employ a simple woman like her, especially when she didn't have money to buy clothes in good condition for interviews. She managed with what. Shortly after coffee, there was a knock on the door. Camila felt her heart jump. Cautiously, she approached and opened the door. There was Diego, the police officer, with a serious expression. "Camila, we need to talk," he said, coming in. "There was no development about the money you found." She led him to the small kitchen table, and Diego looked at her seriously before continuing. "We discovered that the money is directly linked to a large financial fraud network, and more worryingly, we discovered how they knew you found the money." Camila swallowed, feeling a lump form in her throat. "How do you know?" she asked, fearing the answer. "A man was watching the garbage can." While you were finding the carpet, a distant camera captured it. Leaving the carpet and right after you finding the object, but in the recording we were unable to identify it. Then we verified the origin of the money and came to the conclusion that the person behind all this is Sergio Ruiz, a name that you may recognize. He is very influential and dangerously. Camila's mind was spinning. Sergio Ruiz was well known in the city, a businessman with a reputation as both a philanthropist and someone who should not be displeased. Some said he was involved with La Mafia. Camila had already seen the man in the neighborhood along with some dangerous men. What do you want from me? Camila asked, the voice shaking slightly. She wants to make sure that you do not cooperate with the police. You have a lot to lose if this investigation continues, Diego explained, looking her directly in the eyes. As soon as Diego left, a noise outside caught Camila's attention. She spied through the window and saw a car parking. It wasn't the black car from before, but a more expensive and imposing car came out. Sergio Ruiz in person, accompanied by two large men who seemed to be there to guarantee the safety of the gangster this time. The woman could not ignore him. There was no time to flee, so she opened the door, trembling with fear. Camila, dear, I am Sergio Ruiz. I think you have already heard of my name in this city. We are all worried about you, Sergio began, his voice soft as honey. We heard about your discovery, and we were very impressed with your honesty. He said it in an ironic way. It was clear in his tone that he disliked it. That Camila had returned the money to the police because that could lead to him being discovered. Despite the fear that Camila felt, she knew that she could not show anything so that they would not use her terror against herself. What do you want with me, Sergio? Sergio kept his focus on Camila alone. I want to ensure that there are no misunderstandings. It would be a shame if your cooperation with the police harmed the community. We both know that sometimes it is better to leave things as they are, isn't it, and pretend that we didn't find anything? Sergio's gaze was clear. Warning, and Camila felt a chill run down her spine. He was here not only to intimidate her, but to do it publicly, showing that he was not afraid of the consequences of his actions. Even if Camila had reported him to the police, he came to her house at this moment. All the neighbors, they must have already seen Sergio's car at his door. It was a reminder that he was not afraid of those who reported him and nor of the police. I'm going to think about what you said, Camila managed to say, her voice firmer than she felt. Sergio smiled. Again, a smile that didn't reach his eyes. Perfect, that's all I ask. He turned around, motioning for his bodyguards to follow him. As he returned to his car after the man left, Camila felt that the storm was far from over. I'm going to solve this, he said, but the words seemed more like a question than a statement. As she closed the door, she knew that the challenge she now faced was greater than she could have ever imagined. In the days following Sergio Ruiz's visit, Camila felt as if she were living under a magnifying glass. The neighbors' gazes became heavier. The more frequent whispers became heavier, and the atmosphere around her house became more oppressive. Camila did her best to maintain a normal routine for Luz and Joaquín, but the constant fear of reprisals consumed her. His thoughts at every moment. Mom, people are acting strange again, Joaquín commented as they returned from a quick visit to the local market. Camila held his hand firmly, squeezing it lightly. We're going to be fine. We just need to be strong, she responded, forcing a smile that didn't reach her eyes. One day when she got home, Camila noticed something strange on the front door. A message was scribbled in red ink. The carelessly formed letters, "Stop talking," or "Pay the price." Camila's heart beat fast. She looked around looking for someone who could be the author of the message, but the streets were strangely quiet. They wanted her to drop the complaint, probably claiming that she had made a mistake and that the money was hers. Mom, what does this mean? Luz asked, her voice shaking with fear. Camila quickly guided her inside, closing the door behind her. Nothing, dear, it's just someone trying to scare us, she said, trying to seem calm, but her heart was beating like a drum in her chest. She walked away from the door and went to the public phone near the house and dialed Diego's number with trembling hands, waiting for him to respond quickly. Diego, Camila, someone wrote a threat on my door. I'm really like this now, she confessed, her voice almost a whisper. I'm going there now, Diego answered without hesitation. Don't leave the house and keep the doors and windows closed. While I waited for Diego, Camila gathered the children in the living room, trying to distract them with games. But her mind was somewhere else. She jumped at every noise, every shadow that passed through the window, her fear growing with every minute that passed. Diego arrived in a few minutes, knocking on the door. With urgency, Camila ran to open it, relieved to see her face. Let me see the message, Diego said, passing by her. To examine the door, her face hardened when she saw the threatening words. This is getting serious, Camila. I will have to report this and maybe ask for a police surveillance around here. And that will help. Camila asked, the doubt clear in her voice. We will do everything we can, Diego assured, although her voice also carried a note of uncertainty. After Diego left, Camila sat on the couch watching Luz and Joaquín play, feeling torn between telling them the whole truth about the danger they faced and maintaining a facade of normality. To protect her innocence, on the rainy morning of the next day, Camila heard a noise outside and opened the door of her house. On the floor of the entrance there was a thick, unaddressed envelope with only Camila's name written on the front. Her heart beat rapidly as she looked around before picking up the envelope and carrying it inside again. The anonymous handwriting and the absence of a return address already suggested that the contents would be more than just disturbing. Mom, someone knocked on the door, Joaquín asked, watching her from the living room. Unwanted. It must have just been a wrong delivery, I think, Camila lied, trying to keep her voice steady as she headed to the kitchen to open the envelope in privacy. She hated lying to her son, but it was necessary to keep him safe inside. She found a stack of densely packed documents and photographs. Camila began to flip through the papers, and with each page, she turned. Her expression became paler. The documents detailed a network of corruption not only linked to Sergio Ruiz but intertwined with several figures, prominent public officials in the city. There were records of payments, inflated contracts, and communications that involved a series of illegal activities. Someone left it there to help her with the complaint. This is much worse than she imagined, Camila whispered to herself, feeling the weight of the truth on her. Her hands determined to better understand the situation. Camila spent the entire morning analyzing the documents, absorbing every detail, every implication. The connections went beyond what she could imagine, reaching the highest spheres of the world. Local power. In the afternoon, while Luz and Joaquín played in the patio, Camila sat in a chair, contemplating the next steps. She knew that the disclosure of that information could trigger even more serious consequences, but she also understood that remaining silent could perpetuate the corruption that affected so many lives. It was then when the public telephone in front of her house rang. Breaking the silence of the street, Camila ran there and answered with trembling hands. Camila Reyes, a distorted voice asked. From the other side of the line, "Yes, it's me," she replied, the caution evident in her voice. "You don't know me, but I know what you received today. It's crucial that you understand the seriousness of this information that I sent you. Don't trust anyone," the voice warned, and before Camila could ask more questions, the call was cut off. Camila stood still, the phone still in her hand, the warning echoing in her mind that she needed help. But since the anonymous voice had warned who she could trust, Camila felt more and more isolated in her fight with the true extent of the corruption now clearly before her, more personal and closer than she could have ever imagined. When she got home, the documents were still spread out in front of her, every line a web of connections and corruption that now seemed to suffocate her. "Mom, do you want to play with us?" Light called from the door with her innocent voice. "Later, dear," answered Camila, forcing a smile. She got up, putting the documents in a locked drawer before joining her children while she watched Luz and Joaquín play. The seriousness of their situation, it became even more palpable that protecting those two was her priority, but to what extent could she go without compromising her safety? Camila's internal conflict grew. She pondered between exposing the documents to the police and risking everything, or staying safe but complicit in silence. Each option carried her own weight, her own pain. "Mom, I'm going to Javier's house to play," Joaquín shouted from the entrance, breaking Camila's chain of thoughts. "Wait, Joaquín, I'm going with Camila." She spoke, but he had already left before she finished the sentence. Camila's heart raced. She ran to the door calling for him, but Joaquín was already far from being seen. Anxiety consumed her as she considered all the possible consequences of her decision to confront Sergio Ruiz. Hours passed and Joaquín did not return. The sky was already dyed in tones orange and purple when Camila began to look for all of his friends in the neighborhood. Taking the birth with her, the woman began to ask everyone if anyone had seen her son. However, no one knew of his whereabouts. "Mom, where is Joaquín? Is he going to losing dinner?" asked light concern beginning to form in her small eyes. Camila tried to remain calm, but the anguish was evident in her voice. "He must be around there. He will be back soon." She was trying to convince both herself and her daughter when finally the darkness fell installed, and there was no more sign of Joaquín. Panic took over Camila, took the pay phone, her hands trembling as she dialed Diego's number again. Diego, I am Camila. My son Joaquín has disappeared. He had only gone to a friend's house and it's been hours, he stammered, his voice broken by fear. I'm going to send a patrol right now. Camila, we'll find him, Diego said firmly. Camila hung up the phone, her heart racing uncontrollably with the idea that Joaquín's disappearance could be related to his decision to fight against corruption filled her with an indescribable terror. She wondered if her search for justice had gone too far, if the price to pay would be higher than what she was willing to offer. The night moved slowly, and every minute without news from Joaquín seemed like an eternity. For Camila, she walked back and forth around the living room, frequently looking out the window, hoping to see her son running back home. Feeling the tension, she played silently in a corner, casting worried glances at her mother. From time to time, Camila suddenly heard the sound of a car approaching her house and went to the door. She immediately recognized Sergio Ruiz's vehicle and trembled. If he was with her son, Camila would be willing to turn into a snake, ready to attack. I will not allow anyone to harm Joaquín, she thought. Where is my son? She asked Sergio as soon as he got close enough to hear her. Your son, dear, you must be sick in the head, he replied ironically. I came to propose an agreement, he said. Sergio, with a neutral voice. If you do something to Joaquín, she threatened, leaving the phrase in the air without being intimidated by the powerful man in front of her. I can do something against her son. That's why I need you to collaborate. I will give you a large amount of money to ensure his silence about everything he has discovered. He will have to hand over everything he knows to me, so he will never hear my name again and his family will be safe, he said. Camila knew he was lying. She would never be safe after returning Sergio's money and reporting him. She has until tomorrow to decide, otherwise he will suffer the consequences, he finished, turning his back on Camila. She knew that he was not lying or exaggerating. Her heart was beating loudly in her chest. Her concern for her son increased. Camila would not risk Joaquín's life, but she knew that making a deal with Sergio would be of no use. Camila was still distraught when she heard the sound of the police sirens. She ran to the door fearing that something had happened. It was Diego getting out of a police car. His serious expression carried a mix of relief and anxiety. We found him, Diego said quickly, as soon as Camila opened the door. Okay, he was playing in a park near here with a friend and lost track of time. Camila let out. He sighed in relief, feeling the weight of the world leave his shoulders for a moment. Thank you, Diego. Thank you for everything. He's coming. Diego pointed out towards the inside of the car where Joaquín was getting out, hesitant and visibly embarrassed. Joaquín and a friend had gone to play outside the house where he had lost track of time, which is why Camila did not find him when she went there. Although Camila was worried about the threats, fearing that they would do something against her son, the situation turned out to be a simple misunderstanding. Joaquín was sure and did not had been the target of any malicious act involving her mother and the corruption in the city. After a tight hug and many tears, Camila prepared to thank Diego again, but he interrupted her with a serious gesture. We need to talk. Camila inside. Camila told Diego about Sergio's visit and his proposed agreement. However, the policeman was not convinced. You and I know that making a deal with Sergio does not guarantee anything in the long term. It is only a purchase of silence, not security, Diego responded. Camila reflected deeply on every part of her being, struggling with the moral dilemma in front of her. I cannot accept no after everything I have seen and know. It would be the same as being an accomplice, but I fear for the lives of my children. Diego nodded, respecting her decision. I imagined. What would you say? I'm going to keep my eyes on Joaquín and I'll leave all the police alerted so they can be safe. After Diego left, Camila felt a strange peace mixed with fear. She was grateful because Joaquín was safe, and at the same time, she was afraid that something would happen. She prepared the children for bed, trying to act as if everything was normal, feeling suffocated with worry. Camila went to the front of the house to get some fresh air. However, her feeling of dread increased when she saw the front door ajar. She remembered locking it when she went to the room. On the worn table on her porch there was an envelope with several photographs of her and her children with a message scribbled in red. Well, in her choices, Camila trembling. She picked up the photograph, realizing that her decision to fight had only intensified the dangerous game she was involved in. She knew now that each step forward would be even more dangerous, but retreating was not an option. The challenge was just beginning the next day. After hours since Sergio's threat near the time limit set by him, the situation worsened. He received a call on the pay phone. It was Diego's police colleague. The urgency in his voice was unmistakable. "Camila, I need you to come to the hospital now." "What happened?" Camila's voice trembled, fearing the answer. "Diego was found in the park this morning, seriously injured. He is in critical condition, intubated." He could not speak, but he asked me to tell you about something immediately, Marco said, his voice carrying a weight that made him. Camila's heart sank without missing a second. Camila arranged someone to take care of the children and ran towards the hospital. The white, sterile hallway of the hospital seemed to extend infinitely as she continued to the ICU where Diego. He was hospitalized. When she entered the room, Camila found herself with the vision of Diego motionless in the hospital bed, surrounded by tubes and machines that beep intermittently. Tears flooded her eyes when she saw her friend and ally in that state, Marco's police colleague. Diego placed a comforting hand on his shoulder. He was attacked from behind with no chance to defend himself. "It seems like they knew exactly when he would be alone," Marco explained, the barely contained anger in his voice. Camila felt a mix of pain and rage. "Why would they do this to him?" she asked, although deep down she knew the answer. "They want to intimidate you, Camila. They want you to stop," Marco said directly, his gaze fixed on hers. The reality of those words hit Camila like a punch. The attack on Diego was not only a message for him but a clear warning for her. As she sat next to Diego's bed, holding his cold hand, Camila reflected on what to do. Every moment she spent next to her injured friend, she felt her determination getting stronger. They want her to stop and give up the complaint, she murmured to herself, "but I can't, not now." Returning home that night, Camila felt the weight of her decision. She knew that continuing to fight could bring even more severe consequences, but the alternative, silence, now seemed impossible. When she opened the door of her house, a sensation, desolation, invaded her. It was clear that her fight had cost a lot, and the price could continue to increase. "My God, please protect me. I just wanted to return the money and make it right," she prayed to her frightened Camila. She had barely closed the door behind her. Yes, when she noticed something strange. An envelope was lying carelessly on the entrance mat. Scribbled on it in a grotesque manner was her name, Trembling. Camila picked up the envelope, reaching out with hesitant hands. Inside, she found a single sheet of paper with a message written in capital letters. "This is her last warning." Camila held the paper with trembling hands, the reality of her situation more palpable than ever. With each decision, with each step she took, the shadow of danger lengthened, touching everything and everyone she loved. The weeks following the last warning, they were marked by a palpable tension that seemed to envelop Camila's house like a thick fog. Each day that passed, she reinforced security at home by placing more wood to block the door and installing new barricades on the windows, while life inside her home became a series of carefully orchestrated routines to ensure everyone's safety. One cloudy afternoon, while Camila was once again organizing the documents she had received, an unexpected call broke. The apprehensive monotony that had set in was Marco's partner, with news that would make his heart stop for a moment. "Camila, you won't believe it. Diego woke up and is talking. He wants to testify. He wants to tell everything he knows about the Ruizes with the corruption in the city. You need to testify too." Camila felt a mixture of relief and fear. "I am happy that Diego has improved, Marco, but it is safe. After everything that has happened, we are taking all precautions. Diego is under protection. Police and we are planning the hearing so that everything is kept secret until the last possible moment," Marco explained, his voice carrying a firm determination. In the days preceding the testimony, Camila felt torn between the hope that they would finally be able to expose the truth and the fear, persistent to more reprisals. Visited Diego in the safe place where he was being kept, finding him remarkably recovered, but still marked by the events that almost cost him his life. "Camila, we cannot let him out unpunished. He ordered to attack me and he is threatening her with other people. This is bigger than me, bigger than us," Diego said with a conviction that strengthened Camila's decisions. "We have to put an end to this by returning home on the eve of the day marked for the testimony." Camila prepared a meal for her children with the little she had in the cupboards, trying to hide the anxiety that was pulsing under her apparent calm after giving birth, and Joaquín went to sleep for a few moments of stillness, looking at the starry sky, looking for some peace before the storm that I knew was approaching. It was almost midnight when the phone rang. piercing the silence of the night with its strident urgency. Camila answered, her heart reaching out loud. Camila, it's me, Diego. Someone is trying to get in where they hid me. I can hear noises. From the outside, it seems like they know where I am. Try to stay in a safe place. They will probably also go there. Camila's blood ran cold. I'm going to call Marco right now, and they will send reinforcements for us. Hold on, Diego. Hanging up the phone, Camila felt every beat of her heart like a hammer in her conscience. She knew that the next few hours would be crucial as she called Marco to inform him of the situation. A feeling of desperation took over her, mixing with a fierce determination. She would not allow fear. It was the end of this fight. Diego had decided to face the danger, to tell the truth, and she would be by his side no matter what. The hours that followed Diego's call were unbearably tense. Camila. She could barely sit still, circulating around the house while waiting for news. Finally, the sun began to clear the sky, bringing with it the day of the trial that could change everything. When she arrived at the court, Camila felt everyone's eyes on her. Some looks were of sympathy, others were of disdain, and some had a malicious glow. Marco informed her that Diego was sure that the police had responded in time. Avoiding the worst with that small relief, Camila prepared to enter the courtroom, knowing that now everything was crucial. Diego was already in the courtroom, looking pale and somewhat fragile, but his determination was palpable. Together they exchanged a look of complicity and strength before taking their places. The trial began with the prosecutor outlining the network of corruption, citing evidence, calling witnesses who bravely they detailed how Sergio Ruiz and his accomplices manipulated contacts and bribed officials. Diego was one of the key witnesses, and his testimony was both an account of corruption and an act of defiance. Camila observed each face in the court, trying to read their reactions. Sergio Ruiz was present, dressed impeccably, his posture calm, but his eyes were hard and cold. At his side, his lawyers whispered, fervently writing down Diego's every word. When it was Camila's turn to testify, she walked forward with firm steps. Despite the fear she felt with every word she spoke, she exposed not only Sergio's crimes, but also her own vulnerability. During a break, while Camila returned to her place, a man she recognized as one of Sergio's closest associates approached discreetly, passed him a note. Camila took it with trembling hands and unfolded it under the table, reading the words written in hasty calligraphy. This will not end here. Be careful. Camila's blood ran cold. She looked around to see if anyone else had noticed the exchange, but everyone was busy with their own conversations and preparations for the next session. When the trial resumed, Camila felt every word of the threat burning in her mind. She tried to focus on the procedures, on the lawyers' questions, on the witnesses' answers, but a part of her was always alert, always waiting for the next blow, until she finally showed the note that had been given to her. The court was charged with a heavy energy. The people were murmuring. The tension hung in the air. This is not just a case of corruption. It is a question of justice and humanity, declared Camila, her voice echoing through the attentive silence of the court. I have chosen not to silence myself, because silence makes us accomplices. Chosen to fight not for me, but for all those who have no voice in the face of this mafia. At the end of her testimony, a respectful silence hung in the air, broken only by the judge who called the next witness. Camila returned to her place, feeling the weight of her words to sit on the shoulders of everyone present. When the court finally closed for the day, Camila stood up, exhausted but resilient. A crowd gathered outside the court. At the front were Sergio Ruiz's supporters, their faces twisted in fury and disdain. They must have been threatened to be there, and they were holding signs shouting threatening words and blocking Camila's exit. The hatred in their eyes was evident and terrifying. Camila stopped, her heart beating uncontrollably. Marco put a hand on her shoulder, whispering, "We are not alone in this." Looking around, she saw that some present in the court who had been moved by her testimony began to join her, forming a human shield. Together they walked towards the exit, facing the screams and stares. Hostiles back to the refuge of their home after the confrontation in court. Camila was relieved to see the light and Joaquín playing silently on the living room floor, the innocence of their laughter in sharp contrast to the gravity Camila felt after the testimony joined to them on the ground, trying to find comfort in the normality of being a mother, but her mind was restless. And if I have gone too far, she wondered, looking at her children, and if my fight for justice only puts them in greater danger, she told herself. The idea that her actions could have irreversible consequences for Joaquín and Luz was an almost unbearable burden. Later, as she laid them on the bed, Camila kissed their foreheads, trying to convey a calm that she herself did not feel. "Good night, my loves. Everything is going to be okay," she murmured. Like a promise to herself, then like a guarantee to them. After making sure they were asleep, Camila sat at the table under the dim light, allowing herself to have a moment of desperation. The fight seemed endless, and for a moment, she pondered the possibility of surrender. It was then when the public telephone rang on the street, cutting the night silence like a hesitant alarm signal. Camila ran there and answered, fearing that it could be someone sent by Sergio. Camila Reyes La Voz del other side was distorted, almost unrecognizable, due to a voice modulator. "Yes, who is speaking?" answered Camila, her voice trembling. "I cannot say who I am, but I know what you need. I have in my possession one last piece of evidence that can change the game in your favor, one that can guarantee that Sergio Ruiz and his accomplices do not escape this time." Camila felt her heart race. "How can I believe in you? How do I know that this is not a trap?" "You don't have how to know," the voice admitted, "but it was me who gave you the previous documents that proved some things about Sergio, so you know you are safe with me. I will be in the city park tomorrow at dawn alone. If you want the truth, come find her." The call, it was cut off as abruptly as it had started, leaving Camila with the receiver still in her hand and a whirlwind of thoughts running through her mind. It was perhaps her last chance to get what she needed to ensure justice, but it could also be a fatal risk. Camila spent the night awake, pondering her decision. At the first ray of sun, she made her choice, strengthened by the thought that every step she took was for a cause greater than her own safety. With renewed determination, she prepared for the encounter, knowing that this could be the return. Decisive in her tireless fight for justice, at dawn Camila walked towards the city park where the decisive meeting was scheduled. The morning fog still covered the park, transforming each bench and each tree into a scene of mystery and tension. She remained alert, attentive to any suspicious movement. She finally spotted a solitary figure near the lake, wrapped in a large coat. Cautiously, Camila approached, feeling that this moment could be both a trap and the key to her struggle. The figure lowered the hood, revealing herself to be a woman with eyes marked by a grim resolution. "Camila Reyes?" asked the woman with a low voice. "Yes, it's me. You said you had something for me," Camila responded, trying to maintain her composure. The woman handed Camila a about thick. "I am Sergio Ruiz's former assistant. Here are recordings of Sergio admitting everything from bribes to manipulations. I can't live with this anymore. I hope it helps." Camila held the envelope in her hands, trembling. "Why now? I saw what he did to the people with you, and I don't want to be part of that any longer. I thought that being by your side would bring me security, but it only brought guilt," the woman explained before quickly walking away, leaving Camila with the recordings in her hands. Next, the recordings were played in front of the judge and the jury. Sergio tried to defend himself, but the evidence was irrefutable. During the trial, Sergio himself was forced to admit his motivations in a shocking statement. "I believed he could control everything. And everyone, power blinded me to justice and morality. I was wrong." Sergio confessed, his stance finally broken at the end of the trial. The judge addressed Camila directly before pronouncing the sentence. "Mrs. Reyes, her bravery and determination not only exposed a network of deep corruption, but also saved this community from future harm. It is only fair that she be compensated for her heroism and for all the difficulties she faced." In this way, the judge ordered that a significant portion of the confiscated assets Sergio Ruiz was destined for Camila as a form of reparation and recognition for her crucial role in the case. With this financial reward, Camila not only ensured a bright educational future for Luz and Joaquín, but also acquired a new house, symbolizing a new beginning for the family. Weeks later, Camila's story was frequently told as an example of courage and integrity. She had become an inspiring figure in her community, encouraging others to speak out against injustice and injustice. "Threats, you have changed our city, Mom," Joaquín said while the starry sky from the patio of his new house. Camila smiled, stroking her son's hair. "They changed my love. All of us who choose to speak, and we will continue to always change for the better." It was the peace of knowing that the fight was worth it. The pain in that peace was the greatest prize of all. Years after the trial that shook the foundations of her city, Camila watched her children in the patio of her new house and bathed in the sun that symbolized the new life they had built. Now a bright teenager studied under the shade of a leafy tree, while Joaquín, older and almost a young man, helped with the plants in the garden. The education that Camila had secured with the financial reward received had transformed their lives. Light showed a remarkable talent for sciences, dreaming of becoming an engineer, while Joaquín had developed a passion for literature, often found himself with a book in his hands, lost in worlds created by words. Finally, Camila had. She found a job, and her children were no longer out of necessity, living happily with their mother. The community around them had also changed. Where once fear and corruption reigned, a spirit of cooperation and justice now flourished. Camila had played a crucial role in this transformation, not only as the woman who challenged Sergio Ruiz, but as an inspiring figure who continued to work alongside the community to ensure that the shadows of the past did not return. Sergio Ruiz and his accomplices, after being convicted, they spent their days in prison. The recordings brought by their former assistant had been the final blow in their network of corruption, dismantling not only their illicit operations but also serving as a warning for others who ventured down similar paths. Diego, recovered from his injuries, he had become chief of the local police, leading an era of reforms and transparency within the force. He and Camila maintained a strong friendship, united by a shared history of struggle and improvement. Diego. She frequently visited Camila's house, each meeting a reminder of their shared journey and the bonds they formed. On a quiet afternoon during one of the visits, Camila prepared tea while reflecting on the impact of her story. Her struggle had been transformed into a local documentary. Used in schools as a lesson about the importance of integrity and courage, it is strange to think that our history is studied. I only returned the money and reported what I discovered. I only did my part, commented Camila. But it is important, Diego responded. It is a reminder that no matter how difficult it is worth fighting for what is right. No matter the difficulty, it is necessary to stay honest, he continued. Diego's company brought with it laughter and an always welcome energy. They sat down in the garden, the sun setting behind the trees. The conversation flowed between the past and the future, between memories of dark times and plans for a brighter tomorrow. You have changed our city, Camila. You changed our lives, he said. Diego raising his glass in a toast. Camila smiled, looking at her children who had joined them. We all changed, and we will continue to change, always for the better. As night fell on the city that once trembled under the weight of corruption, now illuminated by promise of justice and renewal, Camila felt truly at peace, not only for having won the battle, but for knowing that her fight would inspire others not to fear the darkness, to stand up and speak no matter how powerful the forces against them were. Of them, and in that truth, Camila found not only peace but a purpose that would define the rest of her days. If you like this story, we invite you to like it and subscribe to our channel. Your support motivates us to continue bringing exciting stories almost every year. Don't miss the next amazing narrative that is about to appear on your screen. We greatly appreciate having you here with us. Now you can click on the links that are appearing on the screen right now. We have a selection special just for you, full of valuable stories and guaranteed entertainment. See you there.